We're going to start with a color theory lecture, and we're going to start with really basic information, some of which you already know, some of which you think you know, but you're wrong. And we're also going to introduce a couple of new things, or at least they might be new for some of you. A lot of our color organization is going to come from this device, which is a 12-step color wheel. 12 steps because it's in recovery. What we have with a 12-step color wheel is a representation of where color actually comes from, but changed. So what color actually is part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Part of that is what we call visible light, or the visible spectrum. These are the colors that we can see with our eyes, our simple human eyes. If we had really awesome bee eyes, we'd be able to see into infrared or ultraviolet and things like that. But for us, we want to know that the whole electromagnetic spectrum exists, and the whole thing is important for art because we've got the visible spectrum with all the colors that we actually play with. We've got the ultraviolet, which is what gives us tans, but also makes our paintings fade. We've got infrared, which just sounds really cool, and also is how we read what's underneath layers of paint. And then you can see that it extends beyond that. X-rays for when you break yourself, gamma rays is how we get the Hulk, cosmic rays for the Fantastic Four, microwaves for popcorn. There's this thing called TV. I'm not really sure what that is. I'm pretty sure it was on the electromagnetic spectrum before the internet, whatever. And then we got the radio so that you can listen to the news. What we're going to do is take the colors from the visible spectrum and turn them from a spectrum that goes in a line or a continuum into a circle so that we can think about some of the relationships they have. Why do we have a 12-step color wheel? Because we're in college now and we can count really high. So instead of having only a 3-step color wheel where I have just my primary colors, or even a 6-step color wheel where I have just my primaries and my secondaries, I can also have a 12-step color wheel where I have my primaries, my secondaries, and my intermediates. Now, some of you were about to say tertiaries when you were following along and listening to this on your headphones, and you were going to shout out, tertiary! And then like everybody else in the dorm was going to look at you and think that you're a freak. So I just saved you because what we're doing instead is actually talking about intermediates. So if we go back to our color wheel, this is a lie. It's a lie for a couple of reasons. One, the visible spectrum isn't round. And two, because this slide that I stole off the internet is labeling our primaries with a 1. So we've got red, yellow, and blue labeled with a 1. Makes sense because they're the primaries. Then red and blue fall in love and they have a little baby and they name her Violet. And that's our secondary. And so we've got a number 2 here for that. It turns out, however, that red is a skank, hooks up with yellow and has a baby named Orange, and then blue has revenge sex with yellow and makes green. Okay, so maybe the metaphor is breaking down. So we've got primaries labeled with a 1, red, yellow, and blue. We've got secondaries labeled with a 2, violet, orange, and green. And then we have what are called intermediates, which are incorrectly labeled with a 3 because they're trying to trick you into calling that a tertiary color, but that ain't no tertiary color. That is an intermediate color. So we need a definition for each of these. Our definition for a primary color is that they are the colors from which the other colors are derived in mixtures. Sometimes you're going to see a definition that also will say, and you can't mix the primary colors. There's a color theory that says that you can. We'll talk about that in a minute. So for us, our definition is going to be that the primary colors are the colors that we use to mix the other colors. A secondary color is the result of the mixture of 2 primary colors. So red plus blue equals violet. She's so cute. She doesn't deserve to have her life destroyed by the reckless life choices that her parents make. After we have secondary colors, then the colors in between are intermediate colors. Our definition for an intermediate color is that it is the result of the mixture of a primary plus an adjacent secondary. So red plus violet equals red-violet. We give them really clever names, don't we? Red plus orange equals red-orange. The one exception to that is that sometimes you will see people give blue-violet a slightly different name. They'll call it indigo, and you probably have seen that in the Roy G. Biv construction, where we think about the 7 colors on the rainbow, which is wrong. The whole reason there are 7 is because when Isaac Newton was playing with his prisms and he split the color out and created the first color wheel, when he was describing what he was doing, he wanted there to be 7 colors because it was a more spiritually satisfying number. Dude was crazy. He got hit in the head by apples all the time, apparently. And one of the ways in which this manifested itself was that he decided that there should be 7. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, has he not seen these charts? Oh, wait, no, he hadn't, because, yeah, okay. Anyway, 6. You could have 6. So instead of Roy G. Biv, you have Roy G. Biv. What we have here are primaries, secondaries, and intermediate colors. Intermediate colors are the mixture of a primary and an adjacent secondary. I have to say adjacent because I can't just say that it's the mixture of a primary and a secondary, because if I mix red, a primary, with green, a secondary, I do not get a beautiful color that shows up on my 12-step color wheel. I get bleh. I get some weird murky brownish, grayish, blackish bleh kind of color. So we tend to avoid bleh in art most of the time, although with a lot of contemporary art, bleh is anyway. What we have then is the obvious question of, well, how come these are labeled with a 3? Because my chart is a lie. Don't trust anything you find on the internet. Abraham Lincoln said that.